All right, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody, to our professional development session for today. I'm so happy to welcome back Richard Dedor. This is his second term coming to speak with us, and then his third presentation today. And I tell you, I can listen to it over and over and over again. So he's a wonderful speaker. I will let him get started. Thank you, Richard.
Well, good morning, everyone, and everyone online. We'll have time at the end if you have questions, so don't feel like I'm going to run all the way up to the end, because I don't like that when that happens to me as an audience member. I'm never going to do that to you, so don't worry, we'll have time. And I'm not going to give you a long introduction about myself, because my stories will kind of weave their way through, and you're going to learn a lot about me along the way. But I've worked for a lot of different clients, a lot of different companies, had a lot of failures, had a lot of successes. And that's really, if you want to take anything out of this, is that I've gone through all of that and I'm still here today. So take with that as you will. But the sign said, theater parking customers only. Now, when you see that sign at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night in downtown Minneapolis and no one's parked in that space, maybe there's not a show going on. Maybe the show's already started and no one's ever going to park there. I don't know what made the driver park there, but she did. I was a passenger in the car. CBS had hired this driver to drive me and my dad from Mason City up to Minneapolis so I can give this live TV interview on a Saturday night in December in Minneapolis. That's important to the story. So she parks there. And I'm just in my own mind, like focused on giving the best interview I could. I don't think anything of it. So we go in, we cross the street into the station. I give the interview. I kill it. It was great. And I go out. You know how after you go shopping or you go to a basketball game or you come out of school and you know where you parked your car, you remember. You park the same place every day. So you walk there and you're just kind of in your own head. And you get to where your car is and you come back to reality and it's the wrong car or in the wrong spot and because you forgot. It happens to all of us. But what happened in this situation was we walked out to where the car was, snapped back to reality, and the space is empty. There is no car there. And there's no chance we were in the wrong spot. It was like 3 spaces against the building of this theater in Minneapolis. So the security guard pops his head out and says, was that your town car? And the driver says, yeah. And he says, the sign says you can't park there. We towed your car. Well, it's December in Minneapolis. And because we had parked directly across the street from the studio, I left my winter coat in the back seat of the car. I wasn't going to need it. Now I needed it to walk the 2 miles to the impound lot with the driver and my dad to go pick up this car, pay the $200 and get the car back. Meanwhile, I'm frozen because it's December in Minneapolis and we all know how that goes. The point of the story is sometimes the signs you absolutely 100% need to follow. Don't park your car there. But more times than not, as you graduate from high school or go off to college and graduate from college, you're going to see that the signs are kind of nice, but they don't always need to be followed. If I'd been following the signs, I never would have ended up in Sports Illustrated. I'm not the world's greatest athlete. I never pretended to be. But what I did do is I found a way to stay passionate about something that I enjoyed. I played tennis in high school, didn't play in college, but when I got to college, I wanted to stay involved in athletics. I really believe that there's awesome stories to be told. So I joined the school newspaper. As a journalism student, it was one way for me to stay involved. In 2005, the University of Northern Iowa sent 8 wrestlers to the Division I championships. Huge opportunity for the team to win a title, or one of the guys to at least win an individual title. One of the guys that I got to cover was a guy by the name of Jeff Harrison. He wrestled at 149 pounds, super nice guy. He was a senior. I'd written a story about him through the year. He'd actually auditioned to be on American Idol, made it past the first round or the first test, but never made it to be humiliated by Paula and the gang. But still a decent singer and just a really good guy. And I wanted him to do well. In the second round, he went up against a guy, the number 2 seed from Central Michigan, Mark DeSalvo. What you need to know is Mark and Jeff were the same grades. They competed against each other throughout their entire collegiate careers. Jeff, from UNI, who I was covering, had never defeated Mark, not once, in 4 years. So we all knew that. As a writer, I understood that. I knew the history and I talked to coach about it. It was going to be a tough match. So we all sat there on pins and needles watching this second round match happen. 5-3 was the final score. Super tight match. It was close. Jeff had opportunities, but he ended up losing. So his collegiate career is over in the second round. So as a reporter, I needed to hurry to get underneath the stadium to get some quotes. I wanted to know what Jeff was thinking, what coach was thinking. I got there, by the time I got there, they were already talking. So I kind of stood off to the side and eavesdropped, as a good reporter does, to get the juice. And what coach said really hit the mark. He said, Jeff, you never have to face off against Mark again. Never. That challenge, that obstacle that is getting in your way is gone for good. And I've never thought about it like that. That is true in that situation. He will never face off against Mark again on a mat. It's done. He can focus on other things. He doesn't have to worry about it. And I think that's what's so important for you guys as some of you get prepared to graduate. Some of you have one more year to go and you start making some decisions. A lot of times these challenges, these obstacles are not going to be big. They're not going to be there forever. And you have the opportunity to make choices along the way. For musicians in the room, whoever picked up an instrument once in your life, the first time you did it, it didn't go well, I promise you. I grew up with my sister who played clarinet, my brother who played trumpet. I never picked up an instrument because it wasn't something I was interested in. But they weren't good the first time. When you picked up a football or basketball or volleyball the first time or jumped in the pool to swim, you weren't good. You failed, right? It just wasn't pretty. But you kept trying. You kept getting better. And that's how we get better at life, is we keep trying. If you've ever written a term paper and it came back with a not so good grade on it, and the teacher called you out for it, did you stop writing? No. You found out how to get better. That's what we do. And as I go through today's presentation, I want you to think about that in the back of your mind. How do you keep getting better so that you can leave here, graduate from here, and really live the life that you believe anything is possible? When I was 12 years old, I quit playing Little League baseball. I had a bad coach, ruined the game for me, just made it no fun. And as a 12-year-old, all you want to do is have fun on a baseball field. And he made it work. So I quit playing baseball. What I did, though, is I found something to fill that void. I found a wooden tennis racket in my parents' garage, and I picked it up. And I fell in love. I don't know why, I just did. I loved hitting the ball against the board. I found friends who would play with me. My dad would play with me. Even though his son was no longer playing baseball, he encouraged me in this new endeavor. And as a middle kid, that's what's fun. Are there any middle kids here? Couple? Any old? The oldest kid in the family? Couple? Youngest kid in the family? Okay, a couple. My sister's the oldest one. And if you're the firstborn, you're really special. You get to do the first thing. You get the first day of school for the first time, the first school dance, the first boyfriend or girlfriend, the first car, the first job, the first time going to college. It's a big deal. For my little brother, it was a really big deal because we knew he was the last kid, right? It was the last time we were gonna have a first day of school, the last time they were getting a job or a car or going to college or graduating. For me, I kind of got to skate by, which was great. I got to experiment on things. There wasn't this predetermined, you have to do this, Richard, because we want to take the picture or have you experience that. I got to make my own choices along the way. And so as the middle kid, it gave me the freedom to do that. I had the choices. And I know some of you today are probably another professional development session. I'm kind of over these. And if that's you, just go with me for the next 30 minutes. Some of you are probably stories are kind of interesting. I'm kind of into it. And some of you are probably I really want to hear what he has to say, but I don't want to seem excited. That's cool too. But at the end, you are going to believe that anything's possible. The first thing we have to do is understand that you have to try. And when you try, you're going to fail. In Vancouver, 4th and 5th graders participated in this study that tested out this theory. And what they asked these 4th and 5th graders to do was to be kind. Okay? What does that look like? One group is inviting their friends to sit with them at lunch, or play with them at recess, or share a cookie with their friends at lunch. Very simple things. Go home and give your mom or dad a hug, right? Not hard acts of kindness. So they did this study, and at the end, they looked at two measurements. How did those kids end up feeling, and how did the kids who were not performing the random acts of kindness feeling at the end? The kids who performed the random acts of kindness were happier and healthier on the measurement scale. And the kids who received the random acts of kindness, the parents who received the random acts of kindness, perceived their classmates as being kinder and more welcoming. What does that mean when we're talking about all this stuff? It means that kindness matters. Being kind to yourself matters. So when you do fail, and you are going to fail, I'm going to tell you a great story here in a second. It matters how you respond in those situations. Quitting baseball was not a bad thing for me because I was no longer having fun. I found the fun somewhere else. So trying things, living your best life. What I did was in 2010, I dropped a bomb on my family. It was Thanksgiving. I distinctly remember it was the Thursday of Thanksgiving. We were all in the basement. Dinner was cooking upstairs. We were just all kind of hanging out. And I had some news that I needed to share. I worked up the gumption to tell him. I said, guys, I have something to tell you. In January, I'm going to quit my job. Don't have a job. I'm going to quit my job, sell my stuff, and I'm going to move to New York City. I was 25 at the time, and it was a crazy thing to do. And the response I got was exactly what I had expected. You would have thought that I had gone upstairs, pulled out the turkey, rolled it around out in the street, brought it back in and said, it's time to eat, because the world had ended for them. Their son was going to throw his life away. My mom was like, how are you going to pay for things? What about insurance and food and rent? Mom, I got it. I know it's scary, but it's something I've got to do. I want to do it. It's going to be just fine. I didn't know it was going to be fine, but I wanted to have the experience. I wanted to challenge myself. So when I drove away from Des Moines with my moving truck with what little stuff I still had left, I was nervous, but I was super excited. Because going to New York meant I was taking a risk, and anything really was possible. I had my skills, I had my network, and I was ready to go. So I'm getting close to Manhattan. I printed out my directions because I didn't have a smartphone at the time when I made this move. And so I memorized where I needed to turn, what the exit number was. I get to where that exit is. And lo and behold, it was closed. There was no way for me to know it was going to be closed, but it was closed. So luckily I called my friend Marissa. I'm like, Marissa, I'm lost in North Harlem. Here's my intersection. How do I get to my apartment? And she was able to get me from point A to point B, thankfully, because you don't want to be lost anywhere in a moving truck. You especially don't want to be lost in Manhattan in a moving truck because you can't really park anywhere because it's big. There's no parking spaces, and they just had a snowstorm. It was just not a good place to be. Luckily, I found a place to park right outside my apartment. Promptly fell down the stairs because I tracked in snow, so I fell down the stairs. So welcome to New York. And I'm unemployed. But I knew that going in. I was ready. A couple weeks later, I landed a gig at a startup digital media agency. I was employee number 16. We had no idea what we were doing. We were making it up as we went. And some of our clients were PepsiCo, New York Jets. We actually had American Idol, the TV show, as one of our clients. And we were 25, 26-year-olds. Some of our coworkers were right out of college. Like, we legitimately didn't know what we were doing. We were having fun. And about a year after I got that job, it was time for a promotion. I'd been working really well. The team loved me. I was helping the clients grow. I'll never forget, it was May 2nd, 2012. And the senior VP, Kelly, taps me on the shoulder at the end of the day. I was at the coffee machine getting some coffee. And she says, hey, Richard, do you have a second to talk? And I'm thinking to myself, heck yeah, I've got a second to talk. I know what's about to happen. So I follow Kelly. I'm on cloud 9 because I'm going to get the promotion I've worked so hard for. But then something starts to not sit right. It didn't feel right. We were on the corner and walking into the room, and in the room is the chief of staff, Matt, the guy who hired me. I sit down, and Matt says, we're going to let you go today, Richard. So now I'm no longer on cloud 9 because there is no promotion. Now I'm unemployed again in New York City, which, if you've never been, is not an inexpensive place to live. In fact, it's rather expensive, especially if you're unemployed. So I signed the paper and walked out. Riding the subway back home, trying to hold it together with now all these really big uncertainties in life. I get home, and as luck would have it, I had tickets to a show that night with my now former coworker, Vikash. So I change my clothes, have a good cry, reset myself, and get ready to go to the show. As I'm walking back to the subway, I called my dad. And I was like, Dad, I just want to let you know I was let go today. And my dad says, are you okay? I'm fine. Thanks, Dad. He says, there's always a place for you if you need to come home. Thank you, Dad. And then he says something that completely reset my mind. He says, do you remember when you were in middle school that I was laid off too? I went back to my memory bank, and Sure enough, he'd been laid off when I was in the 7th grade, and we turned out okay. He got a new job, we made it. And that changed my entire focus the rest of the night. So I get to dinner with my friend Vikash, and we're having burgers and shakes before the show. And he is super excited for me. And all I can think about is, I just spent $25 on dinner and I've got no income now. So that was a good choice, Richard. But he's super excited. I'm like, Vikash, why are you excited? He says, because you get to decide what you do next. You have all the freedom in the world, man. I'm so jealous of you. And I'm thinking, I just want to crash this plane right now because I have no idea what I'm going to do. Don't you get that? He got it. I didn't get it. Go to the show, and your mind is in this place. You're trying to enjoy the show because the show was incredible. It was a show called The Best Man. It starred Angela Lansbury, Candice Bergen, John Larroquette, Eric McCormack, James Earl Jones, like a legit Oscar-winning cast. And I was there and I enjoyed it, but I also wasn't there because I was worried about all this other stuff that I couldn't control. So we say our goodbyes, and I'm near Times Square. And if you've ever been in New York City, you've probably gone to Times Square. If you live there, you never go because it's a terrible place to spend any amount of time. But I was like, I'm close. I feel there was something that was drawing me there. So I walked to Times Square, and it was nighttime, so everything was lit up and it was packed with tourists. And I catch myself looking at the building that has the New Year's Eve ball in the year 2012 on it. And it's lit up. I'm just standing there and I'm looking at it. And in that moment, I decided that instead of being fearful of the unknown, I was going to embrace the unknown. I didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, but I knew that my mind had to be in the right place. So yeah, I was unemployed for a while after that, but changing my mindset made all the difference. Because that fall, I had the unique opportunity to work for the US Open Tennis Championships that is held in New York City. I had to work on their digital media team and be in the room when we were told that Andy Roddick was going to retire that afternoon. And we had to put together all of the media packages and set up all those pieces for the media. We put together video chats that had never happened in professional sports before. And it was so cool to be there. And had I not been let go, I never would have had that chance. I never would have had the time to take off, to put in the work to get that opportunity. Because I chose, when I was standing in Times Square, to be kind to myself, I was able to have the right mindset. That is the power of kindness, whether it's you to someone else or you to yourself. So you try it. Now you've got to embrace this idea. What is possible when I shift my mindset to believing anything is possible? If you've seen the movie Frozen 2, you're gonna remember this quote. If you've never seen it, I apologize, but it'll make sense. It's a scene between Kristoff and Sven. And Sven is telling Kristoff, you feel what you feel, and your feelings are real. And it's true. Whether you've just been let go, or you failed a test, or you didn't win the championship, whatever the case may be, whatever you feel is valid. The benefit of being teenagers or adults is that we understand how to process that. In Australia, they looked at toddlers and how they process feelings, or rather don't process feelings. We have all seen toddlers have temper tantrums, right? We probably all did them as a kid ourselves. But they want to understand what is happening. Why is every toddler acting that way? What they came to understand is very clear. A toddler has no idea what is happening and why. So the first time a toddler falls down and scrapes their knee and bleeds, they have no idea that this is normal, that the pain will go away, that I will be okay, right? Or the first time they get stung by a bee, or fall down, or see a dog. Like seeing a dog for the first time could be super scary or super awesome. There's no in between with a toddler. They have no frame of reference. They don't understand why when they run in the street, mom, dad, grandma, and grandpa all freak out. They just think they're having fun. It's this understanding that feelings are real no matter when and how you experience them. And when you embrace that and understand that, you then can overcome them. You can make them a part of your own experience. My friend Allison embraces this idea. I met her 15 years ago at a conference. We've been friends ever since. And I'll never forget the day, a few years after we met, she would have been 28 at the time, when she posted on Facebook that her husband, they'd been married for 2 years, her husband had suddenly died. I didn't know how to respond. I wasn't engaged, I wasn't married, I didn't know what was protocol, but I just tried to be a friend. 2 years later, she posted again that said that she had just been diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. Now how do I respond? So we've been in touch ever since, and her MS is debilitating. It impacts her every day. It doesn't go away. So I had her on my podcast last year during the heart of the pandemic, and I asked her, how did you get through that? Like, for real. I don't know how I would have gotten through that. And what she said really hit home. She said, I wake up joyful every day. And I asked her in response, I was like, how do you, with everything that you've gone through, which is incredible, I'm so proud of you, how do you wake up joyful? She said, if these things wouldn't have happened to me, I would have missed out on the life I have now. What she gets to do now, she had to quit her job because the MS did not allow her to have the job she had at the time. She's now an art therapist for people all around the world. She changed her entire life and now loves what she is doing. Through all this terrible stuff, she embraced what was happening and made it better for herself. Good and bad, God embrace it. George Eliot writes that we as humans are not marble or malleable. We can adjust, we can change. And it's never more true when you're in a dark moment, when you're in a dark place. You all walked in, you have laptops open, you have cell phones. I didn't have my first family computer until I was in 6th grade. Didn't have my first cell phone until I was a senior in high school. Our experiences are different, but we're continually living through a time when technology impacts our life. Anything is possible. We're embracing it, right? What is possible with the technology in front of us? The beauty of that is that anything is really possible, right? Any app can be created tomorrow that changes how we do X, Y, and Z. When I lived in New York, Uber was just becoming a thing, and now it's everywhere, right? It's so easy to hail a cab now. In New York, it was terrible to raise your hand and try and catch one. It just was impossible. Now it's not. Embracing the world around us is so powerful. When I was in high school, a junior actually, my English teacher encouraged me to join speech team. For 2 reasons. One, no one was going out for speech team and she was the coach and wanted people to go out for the club. So there was that. And 2, I was good at giving speeches in her class. And she was like, you should go out for speech team. I said, all right, fine, whatever. I got some free time, I can do it. What I didn't know was that speech team can have awards. You can win stuff. That's cool. That first year out, I won. I won at All-State competition. Didn't know that was a thing. The next year, the better part is that people saw that you could win things, and they went out for speech team with me. So do I take credit for that? A little bit. But I think it showed that you can embrace something you're good at or want to be challenged by or just want to be a part of, and good things can happen. Which is why I joined the UNI speech team when I was at college and got to meet some of the best speakers in the country. One of my teammates actually became a national champion speaker at oratory, I think it was. And now he's a professor at the University of Alabama. Like, anything is possible. You really embrace these opportunities in front of you and take those risks. And life is risky, right? We've all been there. We've all made mistakes. We've all failed and fallen off our bikes or done other accidents. And it's hard, painful. But I'm here to tell you that through that pain, good things happen. When I got married, we knew we wanted to start a family. Didn't know how, didn't know when, but we knew that that was something that we wanted to do. So about 5 years ago, we decided adoption was going to be our path. So part of that process, not to be overly complicated, but you have to have an investigator come to your home and interview you. 3 separate nights, about 3 hours a night. And these aren't questions like, where's the fire extinguisher? Do you have, things covering the outlets? Like, you do those things, but they don't really care about that. They care about how you're going to treat a child. They ask questions like, how are you going to discipline your kid? How are you disciplined, and how did that impact you as a person? And how do you think that impacts you as a future parent? Who's going to make dinner? Like, questions that some of which we hadn't even thought about. It was literally like a 10-hour therapy session that we were not prepared for. But we got through it. She approved us. The next step is to put together a book of your life that a future mother's going to look at. It talks about your careers, your families, your extended families, your hobbies, so that a mother can flip through this book and decide, yep, this is the family I want my kid to grow up in. So we did that. And you do that, and then you just wait. You wait for a mom somewhere in the world to say, that's the family. Summer of 2018, we got the call. A mother had selected us. So at that point, like any family, baby showers, get the room ready, paint the room, put the crib together, like everything was ready to go. Baby was going to be born around Thanksgiving of 2018. Life-changing, right? So here, just go with me. The first week of November, Monday, My husband gets an email from his boss saying they need to meet at 8 a.m. Cool, whatever. I get a phone call at 9 o'clock that morning. They just let me go. Okay. Not the best news when you're about to have a new baby in the house and expenses and hospital bills, but we'll deal with it, right? We're going to be okay. Tuesday, I was up for election for the Iowa House. Lost that election really badly. So there's that. Wednesday of that week, another speech coach of mine, a former teacher and a friend, lost her husband to cancer. So it's 3 days. Monday, we lost the job. Tuesday, we lost an election. Wednesday, we lost a friend. Thursday, nothing happened, which is good because I don't know we could have taken it anymore. Friday comes. We had a call from our caseworker. At that point, that call was supposed to be, baby's born, you need to get down to Arizona, meet the baby, pick up the baby, that kind of thing. Not what the call was. We wanted to let you know that the baby was born last night, but the mother decided to keep her. So now we've lost the job, lost an election, lost a friend, and now we've lost the baby. All in the span of 5 days. We didn't do much Friday. Definitely didn't do anything Saturday. We were just spent, emotionally, physically, whatever. Like we had no energy left. So Saturday, I was like, we've got to get out of the house. I said, let's go get ice cream. I personally don't like ice cream very much, but it was something fun to do. So we went and got ice cream. And that one decision reset our perspective. We got back to center. There were still some low moments in the coming weeks as you recoup and search for a new job and figure out how we're going to do the adoption thing again. Do we do it again? Well, the first week, early January is my birthday. And we got a call from our caseworker that week. And she said, there's another mom and she's interested in you. What do you think? We talked about it and we said, yeah, we're interested. So when our daughter was born at the end of February of 2019, that joy was super, super high because we'd gone through all the other stuff. We had seen all of the darkness. And it's through that darkness when you truly see the light. You cannot have the darkness without the light. You can't have the light without the darkness. We wouldn't have been, I firmly believe we would not have been as excited and happy and joyful if all the bad stuff wouldn't have happened to us. But we embraced the experience and are now the parents of a precocious 2-year-old toddler who acts like a toddler. So I speak from experience when I say that that's how they act. So you try it, you embrace it. Finally, you have to believe it. You have to believe that if you do these things, you can act, you can achieve better than you had before. The final study I want to reference is one that's super funny to me, but you can Google it and you can see these images and watch this video. There were 2 groups of people. One was a group of radiologists. One was a group of average, everyday people who had no specific skill set. The group of radiologists was given an X-ray to look at. It was a chest X-ray, nothing crazy about it. They were asked, look at this X-ray, what do you see? 83% of these trained, certified radiologists missed something very, very clear. There was a plastic gorilla on the X-ray participant. So it showed up on the X-ray. You can Google it, you can see it yourself. They missed it, never made a reference that there was a weird shape on this person's lung. So the other group was that they were tasked with watching a 3-on-3 staged basketball game. And the only task was count the number of times one of these teams passed the ball. That was it. Not the score, not who had the assist, not who made the baskets, how many times they passed the ball. More than half of those participants did not make reference to a 7th person walking on the court dressed in a gorilla costume. Didn't see it or didn't remember it. Why? Neither group was asked to look for gorillas. Neither group was asked to do anything outside of a very specific question. So what does it have to do with any of this, Richard? We go after the things that we see or that we're told. But what's more important is to be open to the unknowns, the unknown paths that come along the way. The signs that you see over here that say, don't park here, well, what does that actually mean? Why is that sign? So the sign can be anything. It can be a parent, a grandparent, a mentor telling you, giving you advice. Process through that and think through what that actually means and what their experience has led them to say that, right? I've been able to reinvent myself a number of times. I've quit playing Little League ball to play in tennis. I had a tennis injury, which no longer allows me to play the game, so I became a runner. Not a runner. I never ran track. I'm super slow. I run about an 8:30 miles. Like I'm not going to win any awards anywhere. but I reinvented my athletic passion so I could still do something. That led me to a really monumental thing for me personally. I'll never forget, it was the summer of 2005. I was working at UNI and one of my good friends called me just to catch up. And we're talking and he's like, oh, I forgot to tell you, I ran a marathon with my dad a couple weeks ago. Like, dude, that's awesome. I could never do that. I'm not a runner, right? Like I'm running 2-3 miles at a time. So why would I think I could run a marathon? And we kept talking and that was that. Like that conversation got stored in the back of my head. That fall, I was at the weight room with some housemates of mine because they wanted me to go to the weight room for some unknown reason. And they put weights on the bench press. No, I'm not a weightlifter. I enjoy working out, but I'm not a put 200 pounds on the bench kind of guy. It's just not me. But they wanted me to do it. So okay, fine, I'll do it. So I lay on the bench and they didn't put 200 pounds in, at least I don't think they did. But I lay on the bench and I get ready to do it. And they're standing there ready to help me out because I'm not a gym person like they are. So I grab the bar and I push the bar up and we all know what's supposed to happen. You drop the bar down and you push the bar back up. Very standard in the gym, right? I got this part down. This was not a problem. The problem was when it's stuck here and I can't get it, right? It's just not happening. So luckily they were there. They pulled the bar off me like they're supposed to do. And I was mad. I was mad at them for putting too much weight on there that I couldn't do. So I stormed out of the weight room. I was like a petulant child. I walked out. I was pacing back and forth outside the weight room. I'm just fuming. And then I'm like, why did I quit? Sure, I couldn't do it, but why? Why didn't I just stay in there and say, hey, let's take some weight off? I still want to do this. I walk back in there and they're still at the same bench. I'm like, guys, put the weight back on. We're going to do this. And they're like, are you sure? Because, they just see me not do it. I'm like, yes, we're going to try it. I'm not going to quit. So I got back on the bench. Really had to psych myself up this time because I clearly had not been able to do it the last time I was there. So grab the bar, push it up, quick psych, right down. And I did the whole arm shake thing, all the way on the way back up, but I got that bar back up one time and I was done. Didn't need to do it a second time. That wasn't the point. The point was I wasn't going to quit on myself. So when I reflected back on telling my friend Eric that, I could never run a marathon, that ate at me. Because I was telling myself, for no reason other than it's a hard thing to do, but I couldn't do it. So that's when I called my best friend. I was like, hey, we're going to run a marathon and we're going to do it together. It's going to suck for both of us, but we're going to do it. And we did. We signed up to run the San Diego Marathon in 2012. Ironically, a month after I was let go from my job. So I had all the time in the world to go and do this. And I will never forget the feeling through all the pain, and it hurt, of crossing that finish line. What made it better was my parents were standing there watching me do it, watching a little kid who they've kind of just let do his own thing, cross that finish line. A marathoner, I will say that for the rest of my life, that this guy who's not an athlete did something super crazy and stupid. It's the way I've chosen to live my life. Not crazy and stupid, but not letting myself talk myself down from trying things, from failing, from experiencing everything along the way. Yes, being let go is not fun, but sitting down and being worried and fearful is also not fun. So taking advantage of the lessons along the way. It's a true story that my English 10 honors teacher got in front of class one day after we'd done this essay test. I wanted my grade. I felt really good about it. I loved the book. I'd written a killer essay, and she stands up in front of the class and she says, I'm not going to grade these essays because Richard's was so bad. We're instead going to spend the time learning how to write a proper essay, and then we'll do it again. True story. Talk about humiliation. But that taught me how to be a better writer, a better learner, and just an overall better person of how to overcome that adversity. If you try, if you embrace everything ups and downs along the way, and really believe that anything is possible, you're going to achieve anything is possible. Thank you guys so much, and good luck as you graduate or go on and come back next year. Good luck. Yes, if you have any questions, you can type them online or you can raise your hand. If none, that's cool too. Mason City High School. I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's where I went to high school. Great question. The question was what brought me back to Iowa. So I grew up here, and then I worked in Kansas City for 4 years, New York City for 4 years, and came back here in 2015-ish, I think. And it really was just to start a family. That was really the biggest reason. My brother, sister, mom, and dad still live here, so it's kind of be closer to family as well. But that was it. Like every day, we miss New York City. I mean, we really do. But there's choices to make in life, and gotta give up some things.
So you mentioned wanting to see your, how did you know that was something you wanted to do? Like, what drew you there?
So the question was, how did I know that I wanted to move to New York City? So a piece that I usually leave out of that story, unless someone asks about it, is I was in a long distance relationship at the time. And we were just the point where we needed to be in the same place. So it was just luck that it was in New York City. And so I quit my job and moved there. That relationship didn't work out, which was super fine. It's totally fine. It's a good part of the story. But I'm so glad that that's what took me out there. I don't know that I would have done it without being pushed, but it got me out of my comfort zone, which made me a better person, a better professional, a better speaker, just a better everything, honestly, like, because the challenges there are so great, but the experiences are great too. So I know that's probably not an answer that like, but I will we've talked about it a lot with our daughter. We will tell her, if you want to not go to college and do something else, we will support you. Like if we believe that you've got the right path forward, because you got to make your own mistakes. Like I know my parents were super freaked out that I was doing it. But they also understood, like, he's an adult, he's going to do what he's going to do. So I don't know if that answered your question at all, but.
During the time that you lived in New York and you were unemployed, like between jobs, like what did you do that allowed you to stay out there that you didn't have to?
So the question was, in the period that I was laid off in New York, how was I able to maintain so I didn't have to like go home, essentially? And I've been really smart, which is how I save money, just because in the event that something bad like that would happen, I had enough savings that like I could backfill myself as I went. And I did a little bit of like consulting work, so I was able to get some, freelance money coming in, which was good. But yeah, it was the savings that I tapped into, which is why it's there. What's one of the most challenging things I've overcome? I don't think it's any one thing for me. I think for me, it's when those tough moments happen, those challenges to being laid off, losing, an adoption. It's just making sure that like you don't fall too far into the valley, and understanding that yes, this moment is ridiculously terrible, and it's going to take days, weeks to emotionally get out of that bucket. But the older you get, and I age myself when I say that, and I hate doing that, so I apologize. But like you'll be able to pull from those experiences and be able to say, I've overcome this, and this is how I did it, and I can do it again. Or you'll have just that group of people who you just pick up the phone and say, I know you've been here, talk me through it, right? And that for me is probably one of the two biggest things. Like, so it's not like one thing, it's just being laid off is terrible. Like it's, you lose confidence in yourself. You question, is this the right fit? Like there's a lot of questions that you get hit with and you have to find the answers to. But when you do that, like you become a better person. I firmly believe that. Question is, how do I stay motivated? I have, and people will tell you, and some people hate it about me, but I love to learn, whether it's stuff about marketing communications, which is what I do on a normal day-to-day, or now being a parent, like how do I be the best parent? Or I spend a lot of time now reading about technology and blockchain and stuff like that, like how is that going to impact my business and the financial world that I work in. So I'm just always learning. So I don't know if it's like staying motivated, but I'm just super curious. And I never stop being curious. I think that's it. Awesome. Thank you all.
All right, so thank you, Richard, for coming and speaking with us today. I think it's always nice to share personal stories with people, especially younger. I think it's nice when you can hear that even though challenging times may come your way, you're probably going to be okay, right? So that's kind of one of the reasons why we bring Richard in here, because if you've never been maybe in a situation where you've had to overcome adversity, then I'm guessing at some point that will happen to you. So I was sharing with the other two blocks that my daughter, she just started swimming this year. So she grew up swimming in my parents' pool. She's 13, so she decided to try out for swim team for the Waukee Marlins, and she made it. And so she made it in the fall. We went from just like swimming casually in the summer to swimming like 4 or 5 nights a week. And she's involved with other things as well. But so she came to me, so her season ended in January. She did the competitions, all of that. And then she had the opportunity to do like a spring swim, right? So it's April and May. And I totally put it out there for her. I support whatever you want to do. It's just 100% your choice. She took like 5 days to figure it out and decided to do it. And she had moved up too. So she went to her first swim practice last week. And so she moved up into a different level. And so a lot of her friends that she had made weren't in there anymore. And she hadn't swam since January. And practices are longer now. So she came home and she was really upset. I hate it. I'm not doing it. Maybe I'll try tennis. This is like full on, like I'm just done with it. It was really hard as a parent to see. And so I gave her the night to think about it. And then we had a conversation a couple of days later, actually. So she had a couple of days to think about it. And I just asked her to think, I want you to think about all of the people who have invested in you. If it's not just money that we've invested for, swimsuits and, the parka and like all the Waukee swim gear that we have now and the goggles and all that stuff, it's actually like driving to practice 4 nights a week and going to competitions, everything that all of your, the people that support you have invested in you. And so I want you to think about that. I don't want you to take that for granted. I said, what kind of parent would I be if I let you give up when things get hard? But I understand that it's also your decision. So I'm going to give you a choice. If you want to, if you want out of swimming, you have to pay me for spring swim. So you make the choice, but if you decide not to do it, you owe me $280. And so then she went back. She's kind of singing a different tune then. And she made a point to meet new people. And now all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I think I can do it. And those challenges are going to come. She's like, it was just really hard. I felt like, I was gasping for air. And I've actually been a runner as well. And I know that when you take 2 months off, it doesn't feel like you did before you took 2 months off. So hopefully you have somebody to encourage you to, I guess, just keep swimming when things get really hard. So, Richard shares that he moved and how he was, how he, his parents looked at him when he said he was going to move to New York. I actually went to college in Oregon. I kind of did the same thing. My mom drove me out there. I remember taking her to the airport and I was like, oh, wait, you're really leaving me here? It's pretty far away. When things got tough here, like family stuff happened, I couldn't just drive home. I came home twice a year. But it was sometimes, I think it's those really hard moments that give you the most, right? So I've moved from Oregon, was in Nevada, and then I actually moved back here. So I encourage you to try new things, to kind of get out of your comfort zone, because I think that then a lot of times you really prove to yourself how strong you are. And I think you need that strength for when things don't go right. So I guess the last thing I'll share is, like Richard, I had a job that I loved. I loved my job as a college instructor. I was there for 13 years. I was planning on being there forever. I loved it there. The college closed, and it was kind of a similar situation. It's kind of a series of like, what now, kind of things. And then I'm a silver lining kind of person as well. So I remember thinking, oh, well, this is cool. I can like just totally figure out what I want to do now, because when I decided to do that, I was only, 18 when you decide what you want to do for your major. And then once you declare your major, then you're in it and you keep going. And I was like, maybe that's not what I want to do anymore. And then you kind of go and we had talked with the 2-3 session too about, really looking for a job and finding a career that fits for you. I have said to so many people, when you go to an interview, they are interviewing you just as much as you are interviewing them. Believe in yourself when you sit at that table enough to ask them those questions to see if you are a right fit for their team, because you don't want to look for a job that often because it's not really a fun process. So anyway, once I came to Apex and I found it here, and I feel very lucky to be here. But I remember then leaving here once with my daughter after we do a pre-COVID a showcase event in the evening, and we do something virtual now. But anyway, it was a big event and it was really fun. And when we were leaving, we were driving home and my daughter said to me, you know what? Like if your college would never have closed, you never would have gone to Apex. And wouldn't that have been weird? And I was, it was like, absolutely, 100%. I'm so happy that those things happened so that I could be here because I love it here. And my job here has a wonderfully positive impact on me in so many different ways, and also in my family. So when those times happen, and I think a lot of associates, they're interested to know and they're interested to ask, us and Richard, how did you feel when you lost your job? It's like, wow, I felt really scared. I felt really upset. Those moments will happen to you. But try and believe, even if it's coming back to this, wow, I remember that one time at Apex where we were talking about this and they told me that it was probably going to be okay if I just kept going. So when things get hard, really keep going. And I just want to reiterate that really anything is possible for all of you associates I've gotten to work with this term, and just continue to be so impressed by you. It's one of the reasons why I love it here. So that's what we have for you today. Make sure you check in with your instructor before you leave and have a wonderful day. Thank you.